Permissions. I am James, and I am super excited to be joined today by Penny Schiffer, who is a AI builder and entrepreneur based in one of my favorite cities in the world, Zurich, Switzerland. Penny, welcome to the show.
Hi, James. Glad to be here.
So, Penny, one of the reasons that I wanted to chat with you is that I got to see a little bit of your workflow and how you're building. And I think I told you this when we were meeting, but I felt like I was seeing somebody else who had discovered a lot of the same things that I discovered, but from a slightly different direction. So I'd love to just go through some of that today. But before we do that, can you give people a little bit of a sense of your background? How you come to this, where you come from in terms of the work that you're doing, and then the work that you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. And James, it's an interesting question because people tend to ask, like, you want to put people in boxes. So people ask me, like, what's your background to understand better how they can relate to me and, who I am. And honestly, I struggle a bit with giving a very easy, clear answer because I've done many things, including the building now, but also I've been in business consulting, I've been entrepreneurial, and originally I studied even psychology. So this is
Mhm.
where my data science background comes from. But lately, I've been thinking even earlier. So, when I was a child, I was actually coding together with my dad. We would code his ERP system. So, what we did was we built the HR and the invoicing function. And I totally enjoyed it working together with my dad. And it was proper coding, as I was doing always the brainy pieces like the architecture, and he would be doing the tedious work. And for me, it feels a bit like I'm coming back to that kind of roots, but then I'm not a coder by training, so I'm a coder by doing.
This is great. So in this, the AI is filling the role that your dad filled of like actually writing the code, and you're helping move the workflows around so that he or it knows what to build. Am I following that?
Yeah, that's correct. And funny enough, James, I'm saying always it. So for
Yeah.
me, the AI is not male, but it's an it, which feels very natural for me. But a lot of people say he.
Yeah. Well, and I got stuck a little bit there, and like, am I referring to your dad or am I referring to the AI? But yeah, it definitely is omnipresent. So, um, okay, cool. So without wanting to put you into a box though, because I think this is a little bit important for our audience. You have not been, prior to 2022, were you coding every day, or what types of work were you doing on a day-to-day basis? Because I
Yes.
think that's good context for your workflow.
Absolutely. So I was a technical product manager in my own startup company. So I was working with backend, front-end people and the data scientist or data engineer on building an AI solution. But I was not coding day to day, and I was like designing the solution like an AI strategist. But again, I was not building it as I am today.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it's fair to say that I was exposed to a lot of technical jargon and kind of read a lot about it, and I almost coded, but I didn't because it wasn't my thing at the time, and it wasn't possible like today.
Totally. I mean, in some ways, I come from a really similar background, being a product manager of varying degrees of technical product manager versus user facing. But um, on some level, I think it is better training for working with AI coding agents than coding, especially as the models get better, and especially in domains where there are lots of good patterns to draw from. I don't know what you find, but in the ones that I know, I actually think in some ways it's easier to be me with that background than it is to be somebody who spent the last 15 years deep in a coding domain.
It's absolutely possible. Also, because for me, it very much feels like supervising a team. So I would have a coding agent and I would have several threads, and each of the threads would be doing something like some backend work, some front end stuff, some debugging. And the way I direct it, I would have directed the team before. And that's why I also sometimes say, we built something, although is this true? You are free to judge, but it feels like it's me and a team.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. In fact, in some ways, I feel like I have multiple teams that are working with me, and there's I'm mostly kind of like threading the context
Mm-hmm.
so that it doesn't get too wild. And I have a team that does this, and I have a team that does that, and it definitely feels like that level of output,
Yeah.
particularly in the right projects. Okay, well that's a great bridge. So what are you doing now? What is the team setup? Like what? Talk to us a little bit about the goal because I want to put the workflow into context for people because it's really impressive, but you got to kind of understand what you're building before you to appreciate it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm building with a startup company here, but let's not talk about this setup, but let's talk about two little side projects that I'm doing. One is helping companies to find non-dilutive grants. So it's an agentic solution that takes my knowledge about how you approach grant finding and the agentic solutions that we have into account so that it's like a consultant. So that's one piece. And the other one is an application on helping people identify new roles in an AI world. So a new occupation, a pivot you could be doing. Yeah, and those are like little projects that I'm building on the side now that are taking account or that use the modern technologies. And they have been changed even since we have now Gemini 3 available because this is more agentic and it also comes with the coding tools anti-gravity that I find very interesting to use in addition to cursor. So that's a lot of jargon now, a lot of things, but
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can
yeah,
dive
yeah,
into
yeah.
any of them if you want.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I think I've seen across different people that I've been talking to is actually this proliferation of projects and of side projects, and I do think it reflects the fact that it is much, much easier to build software than it was, 6 months or a year ago. And so then coming with that, the bar to like get something out into the world
Oh,
is so much smaller, which is a good thing, right? It means we're going to see, now it's going to be easier for people to find non-dilutive grant funding because of a tool that you built. And you
yes.
never know which of those things is really going to take off and go somewhere. So I think that's really cool. Um, why don't you talk us through your kind of typical workflow, and then I'd love to get into some of these specifics around tools. And then just for your context, I kind of think as of the target listener of this show as somebody who has two or three coding agents running at the same time. So I wouldn't be afraid. I wouldn't feel like you need to educate people on like each individual. Assume they know Cloud Code, assume
Yeah,
they know
yeah.
Gemini, but maybe that they're not using the tools necessarily the way that you are. Um,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let me talk about how I built the Grant Finder tool here because that's something where that I just started like 3 4 weeks, no, 2 3 weeks ago,
Mm,
and I think I did it with all the learnings that I had so far. Because what I did is the following. I had an idea in mind of what I wanted to build, and I started with a planning phase and a reviewing phase of that. So I really created a product requirement document for almost 2 days, going back
mm,
and forth, thinking about it, talking through with other people, using Gemini, the web frontend, which is my mentor, to find out a bit about it. And I did not jump straight into the coding, although I was tempted to do, but I thought it's better to get some validation on how it can work, what is a good architecture, and what is the tech stack I wanted to use before I would jump into the coding. So that's something that I learned makes a lot of sense. And then it would be a relatively detailed product requirement document that you could have given to a mid to senior developer to actually build it.
mm, mm.
And then what I
And
did,
let
yeah,
me pause you there. Is to what degree is that user stories versus like defining the tech stack versus like implementation? Do you have a place where you like to cut that artifact off?
yeah. So it before I would give it to anti-gravity or cursor, it would not have a detailed implementation of it, but it would already have some idea of what is the sequence of how we want to build it, like maybe 6 phases or so. But each of the phases would just be a paragraph because I would let it for the tools to detail it further. But I wanted to have already an idea of what's the logical sequence of how to build it because their supervision is still needed and you can do a lot of things wrong.
Yeah, so
Um,
these are your delivery milestones. So you're kind of outlining this is who we're building for. This is you know,
Yeah.
how it needs to work to solve the problem for that person. And then here are the like step by step milestones that are going to get us out to the point where it's done.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes. It would be something like 8 pages or so. It would not be, a lot, but and it's a relatively small app, right? So it doesn't have a lot of complexity. It's a one screen app with a downloadable report and a payment function. So it's really not massive, but still, it makes sense to have an idea of how you want to build it. What I also learned and what I didn't do before well enough is I defined the states for the front end before I built the big mess. With my first attempt, I built a big mess because front end wasn't so known to me, but now I know it makes sense to design or think about the states and how you want to reflect it beforehand. In this case, I did go to a new technology, so I built it in Node.js and Vercel because I wanted to see how it works, and I wasn't afraid of this because I have tools that help me here. But that's all I put there. And then what I did is it's a funny experiment because I gave it to both anti-gravity and I gave it to cursor too. And I said, look, guys, I want you to build this and, let's make it a bit of a competition. So I give you each a branch on GitHub and you can build it all. I help you with debugging or answering questions, but, that's what I want to do now. And then for the next week or so, not full time, but like 2, 3 hours a day, I would build with both tools the same app. So the steps, it was like 6, 7 steps. I would have them plan it, I would have them build it, debug it, and see what we get. Yeah, this is interesting because both tools are amazing in their own way, but they are not. No, I cannot say one is better than the other per se, but I have to say that anti-gravity made absolutely the more beautiful UX, and I don't mean beautiful in just nice pixels, but also the functional good UX that you want to see. So this is like a no-brainer. However, Cursor was much better in getting the backend and the chat function right. So,
Mm.
funny enough, with anti-gravity, which is driven by Gemini 3, it didn't know about Gemini 3. I had to educate it about itself. And then Gemini 3, you have to address it a little different. It has thought signatures. So these kind of things is a new paradigm. And I couldn't really teach it to anti-gravity, but Cursor was very easy in picking it up and building it. So then what I did, I wasn't too happy with having two apps, each of them with a strength and with a complete weakness. So I said, okay, what's easier to fix? Is it easier to fix the front end or the back end? And then I asked both apps to look at each other's branch and come up with ideas of how to improve this. Like I made them compare themselves to each other. And then finally, what I did is I took Cursor's improvement plan and brought it to anti-gravity because I figured it's easier in this case to fix just the back-end stuff than the front end because Cursor was completely not getting it, how the front end should look like. So I had them correct and teach itself how to improve further. And then now I'm sticking with the anti-gravity branch and made it the main branch.
And then some like contextual questions. When you're, I'll start in the spec phase and then we can talk in the build phase. In the spec phase, are you 100% focused on writing the spec, or are you doing this in the midst of your other work, like in a chat conversation with Gemini? How does that work for you, or a little bit of both, depending on the spot?
Well, yeah, I use AI tools to do that for
Sure.
sure, because it's much more efficient. I even use the tools sometimes to tools. I mean Gemini web frontend. So
Mm.
I'm a Gemini user here. I sometimes use also the web frontend to simulate how a prompt would work. So I
Mm.
make it write a prompt, for example. So is this a prompt that would be a good prompt for a consultation agent? And then I say, okay, now let's do a role play. You are the consultee, I'm the consultant. Let's simulate how it would look like if this
Mm.
actually works. And it's actually not too bad. So Gemini the web front end can simulate how the
Mm,
software would look like before we built it, so that I can understand if it's, feasible or if something would actually work.
mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So I try to do a lot of feasibility before I built it, because it's easier to do it when you don't have the software yet. And then changing it is much easier because you don't need to change, but you built it differently.
Yeah. And then when you start building, do you have cursor and anti-gravity up at the same time in different windows and you're flipping back and forth between them? Or did you have like this hour is cursor hour, this one is anti-gravity hour, like
I
a
I
mix?
can't really tell you. Yeah, it's a mix.
It just gets done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because, when one is doing something, I let it do it and go to the other one. I try to make sure that both of them get the same attention. So
Yeah.
it should be a fair comparison. But yeah, I
And was this rooted in
maybe,
wanting to try anti-gravity out? Because the last time we talked maybe a couple months ago, and you were very cursor. It felt like was more central to your workflow. Was this an experimentation that led to this?
yes, that's correct. And, I wanted to see if Google had been able to catch up,
Yeah.
because they have been a bit behind in that respect. And I think they totally were able to catch up. So the tool has some things that are really even nicer than with Cursor. However, I still find it easier to build with Cursor because it's more, let's say, I understand it better and I get a better sense of control. So it is agentic, but I still see what it does. While with my settings of anti-gravity, it's a bit too agentic. For example, when I close the laptop in the evening or when I'm done, I make sure that the laptop goes to sleep and that it cannot do anything further, because you never know what it would do. While with Cursor, the boundaries are more transparent for me.
Mm. Do you think that that's something that you would adjust to over time, or, um, and the reason I say that is when Codex 5 came out, I felt like all of a sudden I was driving a like much faster car. Like when I hit the gas, it like really went, and I was like, whoa, wait a second, this might be too much. But then after a week, I kind of settled into it, right? Like I got a sense for when it was gonna go and do lots of stuff,
Yes.
and when I needed to say only go this far because I don't want to like run into something. Um, what's your
Yeah,
sense there?
absolutely. I mean, the planning mode in both tools is amazing. And when I see that the plan is well thought through and that it's, I wouldn't have anything else to add, I click the build button and it can really do it. This
Mm,
wasn't possible a couple months ago, but also I would not have trusted it to do what I want. So I'm getting better at reading and reviewing plans, but the tools are getting better at building good plans. But I've just seen like one new feature that I've been exploring, which is the debug feature in Cursor.
mm,
And here I'm not entirely sure it works for me or it's already a great feature, because the debugging seems to be like, poking here and there, and it seems very random. So I think it still needs a lot of guidance, and I'm not sure if this debugging thing is actually taking my time or saving me time. So it's also the tools need to evolve. So I gave it a try to see if it's any good, but I think it needs a couple iterations from Cursor side to be really useful. So that's also how you get used to it, but also how the tools evolve a lot.
totally, totally.
Yeah.
That's a great kind of segue. So you've taken us through kind of your design phase. You've taken us through your build phase. Um, have you launched the Grant Finder app yet? Is it live? Is it something we can show people, or is it still being designed?
Well, it is live, as in it's a beta app that
Yeah.
we can see. Let me see if I can. I mean, I was more prepared to show you a piece of how I built it than the app itself.
We'll do that in a
Um,
second, but I do want people to see that I guess part of what I am speaking to here is that like people are building real apps that do things with
Absolutely.
these tools. Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah, here we go. Let me share it with you. So you should be seeing it now, right?
Yes, I see it.
Y- Yes. So yeah, it's a real app. So you see, it's the Swiss Grant Finder. It has a lot of sources. So it has a lot of information on different grants. It's not just for Swiss ones. I'm planning it for Europe, and oops. and now you can type in what's your startup doing. I tell you what, we take a sample startup that I have already here. So it's a Swiss drone startup. It has already some revenues. It's founded a couple of years ago. You have to give a bit of information so that it can actually assess it. And now what it does is it uses Gemini 3, the high thinking mode. It takes into account the relevant grants. So it's a RAG system where it takes the information, for example, about the EU startups here. And then it goes and gives you advice on if any of the grants make sense for you to look at or not. It would also ask you questions. Here we go. So we found that there is, wait a sec, so that there is already enough information. So there is a grant program that is like a perfect fit. It also suggests that you could go to EU funding, which is more significant. And then it also says what you should not do, because it should also save you time. And you can now click on create a report, and then you have all the information, and including the dates when you can apply in your inbox.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so and just one more like contextual question. Give me an approximation of like total time from like you started this kind of was an idea that you started working on. How many like weeks or days, and then how many hours do you think you actually put into the project?
So I only started when I was at the Slash conference end of November, so it cannot be that many days. And I was traveling most of the time, so I could only do an hour or so in the evening. So I made sure that I do progress a little bit every day, but the travel was intense, so it was not really that much. So I'd say it's fair to say some like 15 hours, maybe a little more. Sometimes I underestimate, and then it's 1:30, and I did maybe 3-4 hours. So let's call it 25. I think that
Yeah.
that's more fair. Yeah.
No,
And
I mean like that makes a ton of sense. I also have that where when you really fall in, all of a sudden it's been 6 hours and you're like, whoa, where did the time go?
yes,
Yeah.
but I mean, just out of constraints, I could not put in more time because the time wasn't there. And I also had to make sure that I distribute and balance between the other tasks. Yeah.
So then, why don't you show us a little bit of your workflow and how it works and what you're doing? Because I know I get a ton out of this whenever I see somebody's screen and like almost like their desk, you know?
Yes, let me see. I where do we have it? Da-da. I wanted to show you a little bit from anti-gravity. It's like hiding. Here we go. Yes. So I wanted to add a new feature, which is just this morning I had a chat with someone who said, it would be great if I could also upload a PDF. So I said, okay, that would be really nice. Let's see how we can build this. And then what I did here is can you read it, or should I make it a little bigger? Is it okay?
I can read it right now.
Yeah. So I said, okay, that's very nice. Now I would like to allow users that they can upload a PDF into the chat. So I kind of described a little bit what I wanted to achieve. I gave it some guardrails, so it should not allow for prompt injection. I made it a little more difficult because in the end, I don't want to have PDF uploads that mess with my system. And I said it should also think about the UX, like what is the typical good UX. So writing something like this takes me a couple minutes, because if I don't do it properly, it will not fly. I'd rather think about it first and try to give all the instructions. It's not massive time, but it's also not something that I just throw in there and want to figure out later.
Yeah, it's not
No.
slow. Yeah.
No. And I think I also get better and better in understanding what I need to put in so that I get what I want. So initially I would have been really like surprised, and now I'm not surprised when I see it. So what has happened then is anti-gravity is really doing the implementation planning, and I explicitly said, do not build anything. I only want you to plan it. And here, this in this window, you see the implementation plan. So it has yeah, PDF upload. I would then go through it and I understand if the constraints are correctly interpreted. We are using this library, which I have already used in the past, so it looks like a good choice. Although this is now with Node.js, so you know I would have had to verify it, but I think that's good with me. It also needs to have a new API endpoint, and then it also understood that we need to do some prompt injection defense. What it puts in here is maybe not strong enough. I don't know. So it says, you know, you have to ignore all other comments. I would then go and do a bit of research to understand if this is already enough to really defend against prompt injection. Probably not. It's better than nothing. And I do not expect that people would go after my little app, but still, that's something that I wouldn't take for granted that this is already enough. And then it suggests implementation steps, which I then review and see if they make sense. This example doesn't have a lot of testing inbuilt in the phases. I would then, as the next step, say, please think about more tests why we built it, because I don't want to be building something and then in the end find out that it was not built properly or that it doesn't work at all. So having only in phase 5 the testing, I think we can test it earlier than this. This is like a nice end-to-end test, but I think it should already test before with some documents if it can extract any text out of it and if the libraries are installed, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Totally.
so it looks simple, but actually I do not expect it to be that simple to build because the UX is not really well defined. So there is some UI component stuff, but I think I'm going to be too lazy to make screenshots and everything beforehand. But I do expect that I will not like the UI from day one, but
Yeah.
that's okay. I mean, it's like what I would then also do is I go for a clean GitHub tree so that I can easily go back to it. And then I don't mind if it doesn't work, then I can just go back 2 hours or so and start again. Yeah.
Sure, sure. I think that's one of the other things where it really helps to get comfortable is, and you see this in the head-to-head test you did between Cursor and anti-gravity, which is that if you kind of segment things in the right way, you can throw it away if you don't like it, and that you should then be willing to take a little bit of risk in the things that you try
Yes.
because it's just code, right? It can go away, and that's okay. You can have a false start. Okay,
Yeah.
this is super cool. So then, what do you do next from here?
Yeah, so the next I will do, as I said, I will research just for the prompt injection thing. I will ask anti-gravity to put in more testing why we built it, and then I will ask it to start building it. So the next thing would really be to install this library and test it. So I
Mm,
think it'll be something like an hour and a half or 2 hours because this requires also some manual testing. Although anti-gravity now has a mode where it can load your app, look at the screens just like the playwright thing, and really correct itself. So I will
mm,
definitely try this too because it saves my time. The manual testing sometimes becomes the bottleneck. I'm not against testing it when it's final, but testing it, several times for the same things, and you know exactly what you need to test, but it takes a while. It's just something that becomes the developer bottleneck kind of. So I'm trying to also get this automated, and anti-gravity is doing that, but Cursor is doing that too. So that's the next frontier, that the software can test itself towards an end goal. Yeah.
yeah, I find the places where I end up stuck are where I'm confused about what I want to build, and then whether or not and then actually touching and testing it. Those are the two places where I kind of like feel and everything. Once I know what I want, it moves very quickly, and then
Yeah.
the manual testing time ends up really being high bandwidth for me, where I end up focusing it on one project One, I don't have multiple coding agents usually running at that time because it's fast iteration loops. It's like you said with the UI, the first version always is not quite right, and yet and then you're like, you're giving feedback and it's fixing it, and then all of a sudden it's good, and then you ship. Um,
Yes.
what are the biggest things that you are curious about? You've mentioned here like different things that you've been trying out, but like what else is on your list in terms of the space is moving so quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing that is on my list as my self-education is actually the code development in the runtime. So
Mm.
when you are able to generate new code, for example, agents or analytics or even front end while the app is running, then you get a lot of new functionality. Like you could build a UI on the fly depending on what the user wants. I don't think that I'll be using it in such a way tomorrow, obviously not, but just understanding how it works to generate code while the app is running gives you a completely different perspective. So I have this one course from Andrew NG that I have already started. It's just an hour. It's not a long course, but
Mm.
it'll give you the basic ideas, including an experimentation collab where you can try out the code. So that's one of the things that I think has a lot of potential, and it can also put you into a dangerous situation. So here it is in a sandbox, and I think it should be running in the sandbox for yeah the next time when I will be building something with this. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
that's the thing that I'm looking at. And I think then the second thing is some of the things that we had to build in the agentic space can now be built easier with a tool like Gemini 3. This means, on the one hand, you gain some speed, and on the other hand, it can also mean that some of the things you build are not necessary anymore and that you kind of have to throw it away. And it does sometimes hurt to throw away software because it's not that easy to build it, especially since the agentic pieces were not that easy a
Yeah.
couple months ago. But
Yeah.
I think it's a wise decision to not hold on to it when you see that some of it is now outdated and it can be built in a more flexible way with the new agentic LLMs.
Yeah, I'm so impressed with your ability to like keep testing your workflow, keep trying new things, because I know mentally, like there's fatigue for me. The idea of I haven't picked up anti-gravity yet, and a part of it's because I'm just like I know that there'll be a tax that first time,
Yeah,
and I'm not sure I want to pay that tax right now on on the
yeah.
projects that I'm working on. But I think it's a moment in time where it is essential for us to be exploring. You want to be spending more of your budget exploring than you would have maybe 5 years ago because things are just changing so quickly.
Yeah. But James, I'm not exploring all tools, and if it would have felt any way complicated or cumbersome, I would not have done it. I only did it because the product requirement document was kind of there, so it
Mm.
was easy to share it with another app, and then I found that it works relatively similar. Because what I also haven't done, and you have done it, is I did not move to Cloud Code for the command line thing. So this would be the big step, while anti-gravity and cursor are so very similar that it's not really such a learning curve. It's more, easy to experiment. Yeah.
When you get to try and Cloud Code, come back and do your comparison. I think it opens up new possibilities, but I think you probably also lose some stuff as well. Um,
True.
Well, Penny, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Where, if people want to find out more about you or what you're doing, or if they want, if there's a Swiss startup out there that is like, I need this grant
Yeah,
funding
yeah.
app, how can people find out more?
Yeah, so the easiest is to go to my LinkedIn profile. So yeah, reach out there and see what we get. I'm a big conservative. I do not connect with people I haven't met yet. So probably sending a meeting request, an invite is not going to get us connected easily. But then I write about what I do and I have the projects on my LinkedIn account. I think that's the best way. And yeah, I look forward to meeting new people. But it's just, for the requests, I'm on this conservative. I want to have met the people in my network kind of
I think
page.
that's the right way to do it. And I can say that you're not too conservative it because I was able to kind of, intro my way in and get to know you a little bit. But
Yeah,
people
but
should definitely check out your work because I think you are just really fearlessly diving in a way that definitely inspires me. So I think other people, if you enjoy this, you'll probably enjoy that as well.
cool.
Cool. All right.
Good. Have a good one. Take